All right, it's about that time to take a dive into the papers and, of course, take a look at the headlines that are making the round. Stories that have us talking, that have you talking as well. This is Freshly Pressed on the Smooth Breakfast on Smooth 98.1, your love music, love live station on a Monday. Yes, a perfect time to take a look at the stories that have been making the rounds over the weekend. And, of course, analysis will follow as well as your reactions, your contributions, your opinions, your messages. Yes, we're looking forward to you sharing them with us. So you can do that by sending them to us on WhatsApp on 0809 444 0981 0809 444 0981. That is the WhatsApp number. You can also join us on YouTube where we're streaming live at Smooth 981 FM Lagos. Smooth 981 FM Lagos. Joining you this morning to analyze the stories and of course give perspective and slang to it if I can put it that way. Mr. C and E. Bozimo. Good morning to you, gentlemen. Good to have you in.
Good morning, Ayo. Good morning, Mr. C, and good morning to all of the marvelous listeners out there. Let's make this a productive Monday and the rest of the week.
Good morning, Ryan. Good morning, AB. Good morning, Lagos. Good morning, rest of the world. Let's look forward to Thanksgiving in advance and happy Black Friday to everyone out there.
Is Black Friday really a thing in Nigeria? Because prices that I've seen, they don't look black at all, though. By any stretch of the imagination, they do not look black at all. It's kind of like maybe 20 naira off here, maybe 1,000 naira off there. And I'm like, what exactly is black about this Black Friday? But anyways, we shall deal with those issues later. Let's dive into the conversation this morning. A couple of things for us to get into, and of course, talk about. You know how it is when it comes to Nigeria. One or two things come into come into mind, and we need to talk about them. So we're going to begin, Mr. C, in the Business Day newspaper here, and Mr. Wale Edun has been speaking on Nigeria's decision to remove petrol subsidies and adopt market-based pricing for foreign exchange has saved the nation an estimated $20 billion, according to the Minister of Finance and the Coordinating Minister of the Economy. That's Wale Edun. And I'm just going to leave it at that for now and just say, okay, maybe this estimated 20 million, sorry, 20 billion, I beg your pardon, $20 billion by any stretch of the imagination is no small monies. Now, you will think that, okay, these monies that they say have been saved from the policies and all that will be directed to a number of other capital project infrastructure and so on and so forth. If truly those are the amounts of monies that have been saved. Now, people are also asking the question of, oh, if we've been able to save this much money, why then are we still taking loans to do this, to do that, and so on and so forth? I mean, the $2.2 billion loan, it's still fresh in the minds of Nigerians, which it seems is going to be causing a number of issues in the House of Reps and all that. But if we saved this much money, if being the subjective or the operative word here, it should be for the betterment of Nigerians.
Correct. Okay, so we've seen the story, and I believe let me give this administration the benefit of the doubt here. Because clearly, if we go strictly by the headline, it's not correct, it's not factual, and I will explain why. On the 29th of May last year, the president announced the immediate stoppage of the fuel subsidy, right? And shortly afterwards, we saw what I would describe as some sort of liberalization of the foreign exchange rates, where they try to harmonize all the different rates into one. And we've seen that that isn't exactly working, but that's a different conversation. Now, when the president addressed the nation last year, upon announcing the removal of the fuel subsidy, he did indicate there would be savings. However, if we all truthfully recall, the naira started depreciating rather shockingly against the US dollar to the point that it literally doubled. So, what 450 naira would have gotten you in terms of US dollars, you probably needed 900 or even 1,000 more. So, we continue to see incidents where the landing cost of petrol was more than what we were paying at the fuel pumps at the petrol stations. And that continued for a very long time. We only started to see the true price of petrol when the Dangote refinery was allowed to come on stream and start dispensing and selling petrol to marketers and the NNPC.
Mm.
Now, all of that happened within, say, tops the last 2 months. Now, before then, what it then meant was there was an implied subsidy on petrol. Because if your landing cost was about 1,000 to 1,100, and you were selling for 600, 595, 617, 620, you don't need a rocket scientist to tell you that differential was being borne by the government agency, government institution, or the government itself. So now that the Dangote refinery is selling at what is believed to be the current market prices, there should be some savings.
Right.
The quantum I can't speak to now because they've just started, but clearly they don't have 20 billion saved anywhere. And his statement that it's being plowed into the government coffers for critical development, that statement is as empty as an office bin on a Monday morning at 7 a.m. It doesn't mean anything in the context of Nigeria today. Because that's what they tell you, it's in the coffers, it's in the coffers. There's no proof of that. Now, true, if you've saved 20 billion, because he didn't say we will save or we expect to save.
We have saved.
He used the past tense. We have saved. If you've already saved 20 billion, surely you shouldn't be looking to borrow 2.2 billion anyway. Now, he says it's been used for critical development, but couldn't cite any examples. Again, he raises questions, and it doesn't help the trust deficit. What are these critical development projects that have been embarked on? Surely, and I sincerely hope that no one mentions the Lagos Calabar Coastal Project. That is not a critical project for anybody. You need to travel around Nigeria today. Most of the roads are bad. So if you're not repairing the existing infrastructure, why are you starting a new one? And then there's a more productive belt that should have been worked on that is not being worked on. So you see that they're stretching themselves thin. There are like 5 or 6 different phases of this coastal project that they started. Then they started the Badagry Sokoto Highway.
What is the urgency for these particular projects? When, as you said, there are lots of critical projects and infrastructure that we have on ground right now that need a lot of help.
So there's an economic argument that these projects should be started, that these projects should be done, right? Whilst we can argue an economic argument, the question is this the right time to start those projects? Because the fact that all things are lawful doesn't mean all lawful things are expedient. Should those projects have been started and given what we're facing? I don't know. I don't think so. I would argue no. But big question here is, this is the first time a figure has been put to savings. Previously, all government functionaries, including the president himself, have just said savings. Now, the finance minister has attempted to put a figure to it, but even the figure now is questionable. Because I'm sure, so 20 billion over what period of time? And if we save 20 billion, surely we'll start to feel the effect, even if they started spending money. Because the next thing they will tell you is they've applied it towards the budget deficit. But we should be feeling the effects. So it's inconceivable that multiple actions will be taken by the government and the people who should be the beneficiaries of these positive policies and programs are not feeling the effect. But certainly we haven't saved 20 billion. I'm pretty certain of that, given the fact that the real subsidy-less regime only started tops 2 months ago. There is no way we save 20 billion in 2 months. Not possible.
All right. Thank you for sharing your thoughts on that one, Mr. C. We mentioned fiscal infrastructure while we're taking that story. And that's going to take us to our next story here, AB. This one is coming to your desk. The Guardian, the Minister of Trade, Industry and Investment, Dr. Chimoke Udwoli, she's one of the new ministers who have just been appointed. Now, she has identified a lack of reliable access to finance unreliable infrastructure, regulatory inefficiencies, and limited inclusivity of women, youth, and rural entrepreneurs as major challenges hindering the growth of entrepreneurship in Nigeria. The technology transformative power of technology, which had not only driven innovation but also brought financial services to millions and opened new markets through e-commerce. You're speaking at the 10th annual State Institute Policy Dialogue Series on entrepreneurship. And it was tagged Nigeria in the next decade, building a thriving entrepreneurship ecosystem for the future. I mean, these are things that we know. Anyone who has lived in Nigeria long enough knows. Anyone who has done business or intends to do business, or not even doing business at all, knows that these issues are stifling entrepreneurship, are stifling business in Nigeria. She has said these particular things, and they're very, instructive because she's the Minister of Trade, Industry, and Investment. Maybe I'll let you take it from here.
The bottom line is that apart from being appointed a new minister, she should be given a brand new rank of captain, obvious. What has she added of value in that statement? You are speaking as the new minister about old problems and not preferring a single solution. Okay, lack of power, lack of this, lack of that. So what? You are the new minister. If you actually had nothing whatsoever of value to add to the long-lasting problem, you should have sat at home like the rest of us non-ministers and lamented about the obvious problems. I'm sorry, when you are appointed as minister, I expect that your statements will be pithy, full of value, full of vision, full of direction. But you come to an event and tell us what we have known for 64 years. Yes, you wear your wings very proudly as the newest minister in town. I'm afraid telling me about how entrepreneurs are suffering from lack of reliable and affordable power without preferring a single solution, at least in this news snippet, leaves me exactly where I was before this story was reported. Or in fact, the risk is that a few brain cells of mine have been deadened by the obviousness of that statement. She has said nothing, she has added no value, and those people who attended there went there and came back. Maybe they had tea, because like Joseph said, maybe it's the tea in committee that makes people go to these meetings. But other than that, she added nothing. I think most entrepreneurs who may have attended that event were not served by this statement. I would like to hear from a Minister of Trade and Investment what she and the government are doing to tackle this. According to you, she has identified lack of reliable. Oh, so before she identified it, it wasn't obvious to us? Excuse me. If we have nothing to say, including me, we should keep quiet. If we have nothing to add of value to society, we should keep quiet. These problems should be tackled on a regional or local level. We should talk about how the power sector can be improved. We should make reference to the new laws set, propagated by the current administration, and ask questions why assorted state governors are not making more efforts to make power available to their people. I want to hear how we're breaking through those barriers, not for someone to come and tell me that, oh, people are having problems because women, children, and other people don't have infrastructure. Captain Obvious, wear your wings with pride.
Wear your wings with pride. Oh my goodness, thank you for sharing those thoughts, AB. We will take a quick break right now. When we come back in, we'll be spreading our wings a whole lot more and taking a couple of more stories as well as your thoughts and reactions as well. Keep it tuned. This is Freshly Pressed on the Smooth Breakfast on Smooth 98.1.
And you are listening to Smooth 98.1.
Captain Obvious. Captain Obvious. Oh, is looking at something there. Yes, it is. I had saved it. I had saved it on Keith's phone. I mean, I kind of had a feeling that something like this would happen at some point. So 33. Oh, oh boy. All right, welcome back to Freshly Pressed. This is the Smooth Breakfast on Smooth 98.1. Love music, love life. It is a beautiful Monday morning, 47 minutes past 7 a.m. Ayokunmi here. Alongside me are Mr. C and, of course, Edun Bozimo. We're talking about what's going on in papers and, of course, taking analysis and your thoughts as well. You can send those thoughts in to us on WhatsApp on 0809 444 You can also join us on YouTube. We're streaming live at Smooth 981 FM Lagos, Smooth 981 FM Lagos. You can drop a comment there as well. And of course, I will take them as we get along. Speaking of your comments, let me take a couple before we get back into the stories. Tony from Ikeja says, Mr. C, it's super highway. It's super highway and not highway. I'm sure the image launderers will soon correct you. Well, there's that. Taya from Ajas says, perhaps our savings have been channeled into building houses for the vice president and the judiciary. To our dear minister, we know these problems facing entrepreneurs. What is the government doing about it before she says her hands are tied? Sheon Odese from Surulere says, Captain Obvious is just reading a script that everyone knows. Just focus on what next. Activity is not productivity. That is very true. That is very true. Ayo from Amo says, uh, please, how come the government can't see that the IMF loans are hurting the strength of the naira? How come the government can't clear out a huge section of landmass and start mechanized farming to address the high cost of feeding? How come the government can't include technology into its security forces, such as drones, to pick up where criminals are and use the Air Force to help in security? May God help Nigeria. It's interesting you talked about agriculture there, because we're going to talk about a story concerning that. Very interesting one. Just need to keep it tuned to hear where we'll be going with that one. But before then, we're heading into the Vanguard, Mr. C. Serap are in the news once again. Good old Serap. Anyways, the Social Economic Rights and Accountability Project, Serap, has called on President Bola Tinubu to investigate the alleged diversion or theft of over 57 billion naira from the Federal Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation in 2021. Now, the organization also claimed that hundreds of billions of naira were reportedly missing from other ministries, departments, and agencies. That's MDAs. Now, Mr. C, this particular ministry, this Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs Post Alleviation, has been a cesspit or a cesspool where it comes to corruption, allegations of financial impropriety, and so on and so forth. We all remember the issues concerning the previous minister, Better Edu, suspended, and then of course everything was quietly, swept under the carpet. We don't know if she's still suspended or what. I think she's been replaced, to the best of my knowledge, but everything was so hush hush and quiet. We don't know what exactly happened there. Please, Mr. C, walk us through this one.
Okay. Thank you. Again, this is a very disappointing fallout from the 2021 audited report of the Auditor General of the Federation. Now, pursuant to provisions of the Constitution, each ministry, department, and agency is supposed to submit audited statements to the National Assembly, meaning those statements would have been prepared by the Auditor General. Now, it's a real mystery to me why we're only discussing in November 2024 excerpts of the 2021 audited report. When are we going to discuss the 2022 reports? When are we going to discuss the 2023 reports? Why is it so late? There's that. Then also, last week, we were treated to news that the Ministry of Works and Housing in 2021 spent money without any approval or any documentary evidence, about 4.8 billion. And the Auditor General asked the National Assembly to reduce their offices to ensure that the money is returned. That was the Ministry of Works and Housing. Now it's Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, it's 57 billion. Now, the rot in that ministry did not start with this current administration. It started with the last administration of President Buhari. Now, during COVID, there was pre-COVID, no, during COVID, there was a plan to feed, no, before COVID, there was a plan to feed school children, right?
Right.
Supposedly, they started in some states. The plan was to go nationwide. Then COVID hit. Everyone was grounded at home for a period of time.
Mm.
We came back from COVID to hear that they were feeding school children during COVID.
School children who were not in school.
Yes. So about 2.6 billion was spent on that. And the question reasonable Nigerians asked were, where were the children you fed? Did you go from house to house? No details were provided. That was swept under the carpet. Then there was another poverty alleviation scheme under the last administration, the Empower Volunteers, where you register and you probably have to go to teach in school. Now, I know for a fact that some of them didn't show up anywhere. They were just collecting the money, giving some to some coordinator, supervisor, and pocketing the rest. However, 54.6 billion of that money, representing allowances for 6 months, was taken out from the treasury, but was not paid to the beneficiaries. Now, the Auditor General says he fears the money may be lost. Sir, the money is not lost. The money is in accounts belonging to individuals who took that money. Now, there's some other money that they took. They paid, one second. They paid 78 million for a survey to see how their program was doing during COVID, whatever that means. Again, it shows the impunity with which government or public officials act, especially with regards to the Commonwealth or the public treasury, with no regard for accountability, transparency, and openness. Now, Serap is recommending that they go after these people and recover the monies. The bigger question is there an existing political will to do that? Questions. Because if you focus on the infractions from 2021, are we then saying 2020 and 2019 was stellar and there were no infractions? What happened to those reports? What happened to the recommendations from the Auditor General's office for the preceding years? Were they ever carried out in full or in part? So there are many, many questions, and I'm pretty certain that a good number of the ministries, departments, and agencies do not meet or satisfy the constitutional provision of submitting audited accounts.
Right.
Now, this is a general problem within government at the federal level, at the state level, and I dare say even at the local government level. Now, how do we solve this? We need to enforce the rules. Nigeria has rules, Nigeria has laws. Our problem has never been the existence of the right laws or right provisions. Our problem has always been the enforcement of said rules and provisions. And until we stop looking at friends, until we stop being sentimental or emotional about things and just apply the law strictly, we will not develop as a nation in the manner we ought to or we should have developed in. So many, many questions. But again, Sarah, well done. Continue the good work. I'm not sure anything will come out of this. I'm not certain. Given what I've seen over the years, I will truly be shocked to discover that anything comes out of this.
See, I mean, you mentioned that we're talking about the 2021 report in 2024. You know, as Jordan Sparks said, one step at a time. We'll get to 2023 eventually. I don't know when, but baby steps. Anyways, AB, let's talk agriculture, as I alluded to earlier. We're heading into the Guardian for this one. Now, the Nigeria Agricultural Development Fund, that's the NADF, has said Nigeria needs investment of about $180 million to bridge the financing gap in the agricultural sector. Now, the Executive Secretary of the NAFD, Mohammed Abu Ibrahim, who disclosed this during a media conference at the weekend in Abuja, said the fund was working towards raising finance through grants, public and private sector, to bridge the funding gap. I mean, we've been told that in the power sector, we need about $10 billion to solve the issues there. Now we're hearing that we need about $180 million to bridge the financing gap in the agricultural sector. And I'm pretty sure that a lot of monies have been put in the agricultural sector at different times. But here we are still talking about, oh, we need so and so amount to bridge the gap.
This always reminds me of the story about a mother telling her child in the market to go home and eat some food stored in the house. And right there in the market, the child starts crying that the food at the house is not enough. How do you know? The issue is this. I don't have any numbers on my fingertips about the amount, but with what we have so far, how effectively are we deploying funds? Because you're talking about the 180 million. Even if you were to get one massive Ghana must go of $180 million, you could not deploy it all at once, everywhere, in the same way at the same time. You need $1, you need $10, you need $100 and $1,000. What are we doing at that level before we now go for these huge amounts? We're talking about needing fertilizer and all that. It's strange to me that after 64 years, we cannot produce some things as relatively elementary as fertilizer. We're talking about needing imports. We're talking about having to get private sector. We have 200 and something million mouths to feed. On a good day, Nigerian agriculture sector should be a money spinner. But have we addressed the security aspects? Because if we put $180 million into a graveyard, meaning where all the farmers unfortunately have been killed and the ones who are alive are injured, you will not get agricultural output up to where it should be. So I just hear these numbers bandied about $180 million. What if we got $10 million? What will we do with it? There are 36 days. If we got $36 million, 1 million per state, what would we do with it? So let's stop this kind of lofty thing. And then we can prioritize. Instead of building a house for his vice president, we could have used that money to put in agriculture. So it's not only about what the gap is, it's about what we have and how we choose to use it, or in my words, misuse it. He talked about how the import duty waiver is now no longer allowing them get some of the funds that normally would come to them. I ask, is there really a waiver? With the prices of food in Nigeria still skyrocketing, what has been the net effect of that waiver, which may be running out in the next 1 or 2 months? I think, I can't remember when it was started. I think it was around the time those hunger protests were about to start. Then they rushed it out as one of the plans. Have we improved our production inside the country? After the next 6 months of that waiver, will we go back to even higher prices? I say this, and I say this painfully. I suspect sometimes that the problems self-inflicted by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu on himself and the nation have gone beyond his capacity to deal with. It's not about flying new presidential jet to Brazil and supporting the the United Nations Hunger Fund. Nobody cares about you there. The problems in your country are not tackling. And so $180 million without a clear plan of action will be one further $180 million lost and wasted.
All right, AB, let me take some messages here. Michael says, let me see here. It says, until there's a quarterly or biannual KPI where every sector is held accountable for their performance and promises, we are all on Cruise Express. 20 billion in 2 months. Then why am I, as a Nigerian, owing about 700,000 from government's debt? Michael, better start saving something little by little. He says, we follow the Animal Farm Rule Book of Law in Nigeria. So far, so good. Gilbert Musa says, on the statement made by Mr. Edun, like what Mr. C said, where are the visible impacts of the savings? Is it people and development oriented? What impact is the savings today to the average Nigerian? Is it currently visible? I doubt. D from Ikeja says, how long are well-meaning and positive thinking Nigerians going to sit back and allow this tragic drama go on for? Growing up, folk tales were meant to entertain and to instruct. They tell us life lessons often about good versus evil, with good always prevailing often. It's about time those in authority sit up and get cracking. D, that's why they were folk tales. It was written for the good guy to always win. This is real life. JP says, The press needs to stop allowing incomplete stories get to print. 20 billion saved. When? Where? How? Proof. We need to do more about data and showing its solutions. What we need. He says, whether like it or not, the unprecedented failures, hardship, and bad economy decisions that have thrown the nation into what it is today can be traced back to the lack of capacity and scarcity of strategic thinking of the incumbent president. I say again, there are no reforms. It's just a kite flown by the president to buy more time and years in office. Nigerians, shine your eyes and wake up from your slumber. We have one blinded leaders. Ajayi Oloniluwa says, but how is it possible that you've saved $20 billion from the removal of subsidies and yet the naira continues on its spiral against the US dollar to its present 1,750 naira, and the government is still going about borrowing money from the IMF? Something isn't right here. Tony from Marine Beach says, during Jonathan's era, the opposition especially held him by the jugular to share the savings by Okonjo-Iweala. The present crop of politicians don't look like people who like savings. They'll readily pounce on any available funds anywhere like it's their turn, with this attitude of impunity and craze for luxury as being witnessed over time. On the fuel price with Dangote, I hope the beans be spilled soonest. That'll shock Nigerians. All right, thank you for sharing your thoughts. We really got to go this morning. Thank you for being a part of the show. And thank you, Mr. C, and of course, AB, for joining me this morning to take a look at the stories. Always a great time and a pleasure.
Thank you, Ayo. Thank you, Mr. C. And thank you for all of the wonderful listeners out there. Have a money-making Monday and a great week ahead.
Thank you, Ayo. Thank you, AB. Thank you, Lagos. Thank you, the rest of the world, for listening. Let's have a wonderful week ahead.
Indeed, a wonderful week ahead. Keep it tuned to the Smooth Breakfast. Coming up at 8:15, we'll take a walk into the locker room. It's all about sports and all that.